gotta lick your wounds before you can dry your eyes. You gotta get down to the bottom, have yourself a good long cry. You gotta learn how to fall before you can learn to rise.
For a while and said, you know, your mother.
You gotta meet your demons and look them square in the eye. You gotta shake them to the floor, then kick them down curbside. You gotta let them go if you're gonna rise. Push through the fog when your chips are down. You gotta move your woes to the far side of town. Get on your feet, step out of your way, make some noise, shake it loose today. Get on your feet, step out of your way, make some noise, shake it loose today. You gotta choose your tune, you gotta shuffle your time, get down to a new groove, you gotta lasso your mind, you gotta flip your beat, oh, if you wanna rise. Push through the fog when your chips are down. You gotta move your woes to the far side of town. Get on your feet, step out of your way, make some noise, shake it loose today. Get on your feet, step out of your way, make some noise, shake it loose today.
Beautiful, beautiful job, Linda. As always, beautiful.
Thank you, Caitlin.
All right. Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for our big celebration and announcement of the Suffolk County Poet Laureate, Dr. Richard Bronson. And we're so excited also because Richard Bronson is a board trustee with us here at the Birthplace. I'm going to start out by introducing Linda Sussman, though, because we just heard her wonderful music and I want to make sure that she gets her props as well. Linda has joined us so many times. Her music pairs with poetry so beautifully that we can't stop inviting her back. Every time it's a joy. She always has new songs to sing with us too. And as you always say, Linda, you're always figuring out which songs are going to pair the best with the poet that you're that night. So
I do try.
And Linda Sussman is a Long Island, New York-based recording artist whose music blurs the lines of contemporary folk and blues. Linda's music has received international airplay from New York stations, WFUV and WUSB, to other parts of the US, UK, Europe, Israel, and elsewhere. Just 6 weeks after its February 2021 release, Linda's latest album, titled These Walls, ranks #1 on the Roots Music Report's Top 50 Alternative Folk Album chart. Pre-pandemic, Linda was touring on the East Coast as a solo artist and at times performing with her studio musicians under the name The Linda Sussman Collective, including gigs at New York City's iconic The Bitter End. Linda's music is available on all streaming sites, and you can check out her website, which I will be posting in the chat very soon. I'll be hearing more from Linda later in our program. Thank you again, Linda. It's always amazing. And my name is Caitlin Shea. I am the Events and Media Director for Walt Whitman Birthplace Association. And if you're not familiar with us just yet, we are a museum located in Huntington, New York, which is on Long Island. And you can visit us in person to see the house that Walt Whitman was born in 202 years ago. And I want to emphasize the 202 because Walt Whitman was born on May 31st, and we just celebrated his 202nd birthday on Monday. And we had a beautiful international birthday celebration virtually that you can always check out on our YouTube. We invite you to watch that. It was wonderful having voices from both locally and all the way as far as Sweden joining us for that event. So definitely check that out. And again, I'll be posting so many links in the chat. You can always take a look at those during our event. If you open them up, they'll open up behind your Zoom. So remember that as well. All right, so we're going to be getting into our program in just a moment, but I want to also thank Long Island Poetry Collective so much for having us host this event. It's really special to us. We didn't know that it was Richard Bronson at first, but it's even extra special because of that. It takes a little while to announce it, so we're just so happy to hear that and be honoring him here tonight. And I also want to give a shout out to Barbara Southard. She was the Poet Laureate for Suffolk County. She's the exiting Poet Laureate, but she holds a very special place in our hearts too. She hosted many workshops at the Birthplace, and we're so happy to be connecting with her again for this. So thank you, Barbara, for inviting us. All right, so to offer the first congrats for our man of the hour, we have Walt Whitman Birthplace Association Board Trustee President, Dr. Jack Coulihan. Jack, I'm going to hand things over to you next.
Thank you, Caitlin. Greetings, everybody, from the beautiful city of Steubenville, Ohio. I'm sometimes called upon to give welcomes to many of our programs as in my capacity as president. But tonight is an extra special delight to congratulate my colleague and friend, Richard Bronson. Richard and I have been colleagues for, I think, almost 30 years and friends as well. There will be, I'm sure, many, many congratulations from the Long Island Poetry Collective, the Long Island poetry community in general, remarking on the quality and duration of Richard's dedication to the promotion of Long Island, the promotion of poetry on Long Island over the last several decades. But I want to focus on a particular aspect of his service to poetry, and that is his service to poetry at the Stony Brook Medical School. For now more than 20 years, Richard has promoted poetry in the medical school curriculum, both in the required curriculum in our medicine and society course, and also in electives and selectives. He's mentored many medical students over the years in poetry and was one of the founders of our poetry workshop, Astonished Harvest, which has been thriving now for about 20 years. So my congratulations, Richard. And I think that we're all looking forward to a delightful reading and a delightful program of congratulations to you. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Jack Coulihan. And it's amazing that you're coming to us from Ohio, special for this, and a bed and breakfast there. So extra special. All right, and up next, we will have Walt Whitman Birthplace Association Writer-in-Residence George Wallace introducing Dr. Richard Bronson for us. And I also want to say George does so much for the Birthplace as well. He's been our writer-in-residence for 11 years, and he hosts a program called Walking with Whitman. And he brings us the best local and international poets. And we actually had Richard Bronson with us recently for a poetry reading too. And thank you so much, George. It's always wonderful that everything you do for the Birthplace. And one more thing I always want to say is check out George Wallace's reading on our YouTube. A few months ago, he did a reading with us on Zoom, and spectacular. So definitely look for that after this event. All right, George, going to you now.
Okay, thank you, Caitlin. Thank you, Walt, Women Birthplace, on behalf of the Poets Laureate of Suffolk County. 10 of us now, including Richard Bronson. And on behalf of all the poets in Suffolk and Nassau County who you've served so well for so many years, I want to thank the Walt Women Birthplace for its role in including more and more local poetry and local poets into its programming of activities. And that's in no small part due to Executive Director Cynthia Shore. Got two very fine poets, very fine poets from the board of directors here with us today. Jack and Richard and Robert Savino. I hope I didn't miss anybody. So, yeah, the Women Birthplace is a cultural institution, and it's a historic institution, and it represents the legacy of one human being, but it's also something to do with poetry in general, thanks to your good efforts. So thank you for that. Integrating all that into one thing is a complicated thing. I also want to thank Suffolk County for creating the Poet Laureate position in 2003. And like I said, there have been 10 of us. I was the first one. And also with us today is David Axelrod, who was coming to us from Florida, and he was a Poet Laureate soon after myself. And Gladys Henderson is here, and Barbara, of course. I think I missed anybody that's here today, but if you do, kind of give a wave and we'll get your name out there. But, it's a 2-year position created by Suffolk County, and they did not have to do that. They created it at a time when the position of Suffolk County, of Poets Laureate, around America was coming into question, and they stood up to the plate, and they did their job and said they were going to bring in a Poet Laureate for Suffolk County. It worked. It's still working. And each of the people who have represented we poets in Suffolk well, have brought their own distinct style to what it is that makes for the position. Richard brings his own particular style, which we all know about. All of us who are poets here, and those of you who are on the Long Island Poetry Collective board, of which he's a member, and I see Katie Dixon and some other people from the board here. And with the Woman Birthplace, and now as the Suffolk County Poet Laureate. Little snapshot of him. He was born in New York City, but lives here in Huntington. Currently works at the Renaissance School of Medicine at Stony Brook University, where he is faculty in the Department of Obstetrics and Gynecology at the Center for Humanities, Compassion Care, and Bioethics. We know him because of his quarter of a century long leadership with the Long Island Poetry Collective. In particular, his role in facilitating the Thursday evening poetry workshops that have been taking place in the Huntington Library, going back even before a quarter of a century ago. They've been there forever, and that's got to be one of the longest standing poetry workshops ever. During the Zoom era, of course, they managed to continue it, and with the Zoom evenings on Thursday evenings, but did more than that, recognizing that there was other groups on Long Island whose ability to get together and do workshops in poetry was falling down. They set up a second night, so they actually reached out even further than they had during this past year or two during the COVID shutdown. That's an impressive feat. He's been a mainstay of the Long Island Poetry Collective in a lot of different ways, and many of you know them. I can tell you personally that in the last couple of years when I was running the Huntington Poetry Barn and looking for ways to make it continue to to survive despite the rising costs and the rising challenges of managing it. He and Barbara, Richard Bronson and Barbara Southard, were particularly instrumental in making it possible for the barn to continue to function as a special location for poetry on Long Island in those last waning years. So I want to thank him personally for that. On the Walt board, he's known for his participation in the program committee. I could say that he and Jack Cohen as well have been very supportive of my work as a writer-in-residence all these years. I thank them for that. This thing about the medical community, and Jack touched on it, I think is really an important thing to just elaborate on it just a little bit because of of his involvement in bridging between medical people and the community that they serve. As part of the faculty in the Center for Medical Humanities, he actually was a recipient of the Leonard Toe Humanism and Medicine Award in 2015 for his work in that area. The Astonished Harvest reading series that Jack mentioned, and Maria Basile is the third party who working with Richard, she's here tonight, created that. Has done a number of things, including the workshop at the neighborhood house in Setauket, held readings at Emma Clark Library in Setauket here at the World War Birthplace, and created this what they call poetry interface and figurative bridge for those who wish to write about their experiences of health and illness. And a pretty impressive thing. He's received a Poem of the Year award for the American College of Physicians. He's on the editorial board of the Pharos, Pharos, the poetry. He edits the poetry component of Pharos, which who would know what it was if you're not in the medical community? But it's it's a publication of Epsilon Alpha. I think it's an epsilon. Looks like a horseshoe. The Honor Medical Society of Medical Society, the Honor Medical Society publication that annually hosts a poetry competition for medical students and encourages them to write meaningful poetry related to health and or medicine. Really, I could go on and on. This man has over 100 poems published. His fifth collection of poems, Imperfect Knowledge, which should be published by late June or early July of this year, will excite many. Just suffice to say that it was no problem for us very quickly as the former Poets Laureate to choose somebody who represents all of the features we think are necessary to do an outstanding job as a representative of the poets of Long Island and Suffolk County in particular, in Richard Bronson. Please welcome him, Dr. Richard Bronson.
Well, thank you for that wonderful introduction. And first of all, I want to thank the former Suffolk County Poets Laureates for nominating me to join them. It's a great honor. I also wish to thank and recognize my three fathers in poetry, or perhaps I should say maestros as teachers, Jack Coulahan, Cliff Bleidner, and George Wallace. So as Jack alluded to, Jack and I each joined the medical school at Stony Brook University approximately 30 years ago. As an internist poet, Jack was recruited to be director of the Institute of Medicine and Contemporary Society, where he taught a course for medical students whose content we would now term medical humanities. I joined the voluntary faculty of that course, and reading poems written by medical doctors, my old interest in poetry was reawakened. Although I had written poems while in high school, this had languished during my subsequent education. I asked Jack at the time if he'd be my editor. He acquiesced and provided critical yet supportive critiques of my writing, what I needed to reawaken my muse, and I dedicated my first collection of poems to him. My second poetry maestro was Cliff Bleidner, who enabled me to join the poetry community 25, 30 years ago and mature as a poet. The Performance Poets Association, which he co-founded, has venues in coffee shops and art galleries and libraries throughout Long Island, where poets gather to recite their work at an open mic. And these are communal events where people of different backgrounds and skills read their poems to an interested audience. I learned to become comfortable with my own voice reciting poetry, leaving behind my PowerPoint slide lectures at the medical school. And George Wallace is my third poetry maestro. As he mentioned, he was the first, he was the one who first presented to the legislature the establishment of a Suffolk County Poet Laureate and was the first to take on that role. But more importantly, George, as impresario and advocate, has been the driving force in establishing a vibrant community of poets on Long Island, which has been supportive of my own development. And one final thought, as I was reviewing this small address from my wife last night, she reminded me of Philip Levine's comment during his 80th birthday celebration at the Cooper Union Great Hall. He noted that his wife was his most critical editor, and I would agree. So tonight, I'm going to be reading 4 different segments. I divided the readings into 4 segments with different themes and tones. And the first is called The Months. It was from a project of mine to match each month of the year with a lyrical poem. And I'll read some of those. January. I have come to know the melancholy of Monday morning roads leading toward the incarceration of offices, the anvil of their hours. And I know the sadness of blue evenings as dusk passes into darkness, street lamps switching on, illuminating the long way home. I know the dark solemnity of emptied houses awaiting their occupants, and the solitude of autos that carry cloistered drivers alone on night highways, each at the end of days. February. Doc Blades, he's called, wears his speech case barefoot. He's an orthopedic surgeon, so I've heard, but wouldn't know. And they say, beware, his blades will cut you if you're slow. Ask him why he skates. He'll tell you about the long glide, strong stride, steel on ice, prowl of the pack, full moon howl, flying through the night, mantra of the blade, heat of the meat, rhythm of the motion. And I thought I heard him say as he raced away, high on ice, the stars sing to me. March, passage. He rode on a river of steel through a cave of night. Lights of little towns with welcome were gone, and the train sang its sorrows, Doamniwo, Doamniwo. The land fell away to a sea of dreams, while sleepers snored their hours. His face, a moon in the glass, tread a carpet of stars. Then a squall gathered in his eyes, a tempest upon his cheeks. He said goodbye to the life he had led, to those left behind. Red dawn came and he rose from the depths of his doubts as the train sang its morning prayer. Doamniwo, Doamniwo, Doamniwo. April, the language of birds, whistling, warbling everywhere. You think they sing their songs for love, but I've learned the language of birds. Though they are wise and sing, their time will come. Owls watching, waiting, own the night. Hawks soar in silent judgment, their keen eyes looking down upon us. And crows wear black, congregate in the synagogue of trees, pray to the one God for the coming of the Messiah. They too know the time will come when pigeons rummage empty city streets, air filled with wild flutter of starlings in giddy celebration, for the sky is theirs again. July, dawn ferry at Orcas Island for Susan. You threw a jacket over your nightgown. I struggled in darkness into jeans, and we walked onto the Widow's Walk to watch the ferry approach. Orion dominated the dawn sky, his belt a trio of stars. 2 tiers of light, silent on night water, floated toward the pier. Across the channel, firefly headlights flickered within the dark forest, racing toward the ferry slip. You stood by me, watching the gathering day extinguish the stars in tones of rose, and red Madrona burst into flame. A voice announced through a loudspeaker, cars leaving for Lopez Island, board now. and gulls appeared, sounding the call to prayer from their high places. Heeding their command, we returned to bed, the temple of our love, tasted the power of Eros in celebration of the day. August, driving home on a late August evening. Houses catch fire in failing light as the day dies. Vacant windows, glowing embers. Night will soon extinguish the sun. Stars multiply without end, seeding the sky, and a waning moon whispers, gone, gone. Dark trees, full of themselves in high summer, rim the road, cry, remember us as we are now. I sense the long days pass, slow journey of earth round the sun toward winter's dark solstice. It has always been so. Born in the house of the fish, under a new moon, I have felt the heavy pull, the highs and lows, sought solace of sleep at its ebb, obscurity of dream, and at its fullness held abuses toward an imperfect world. October, in the season of spiders, I have walked through webs, complex designs of the weavers who sleep the day away, resting from their nocturnal vigilance. It is that time when cicadas still sing and a gibbous moon accompanies one through the night. I do not begrudge them their night work, that I have taken the vacuum to their resting places for fear of entanglement. The little ones ready to burst from the nest float on the wind toward distant places, denied their future. I've often wondered what special silk spiders would make and how a lonely worm was chosen by the Chinese for their trade. If I could wear a spider silk cape, the spectral blaze of stars glistening in its folds, I'd fly on arachnid wings, cousin to the bat, companion to the moon, a night traveler in the season of spiders. November, Thanksgiving for Susan. I awaken in soft light to thee and me, bodies conforming to each other. My breath blows gently onto your shoulder, lips touching soft skin. If I were to open my eyes onto the day, this fragile moment would pass, and I have grown aware in the space between sleep and waking of a thought. Our breaths, the slow movement of air passing in and out minute by minute, mingle in this bedroom over the years as our lives have, and I must give thanks. So now I'm going to the second part, which I sort of titled Growing Up with the Family Doctor and His Wife. This is when doctors made house calls. She won't be back. They sat at the kitchen table, last patient seen, blackout shades drawn, end of the day, silence. Then the distant whistle of an air raid warden, his call, lights out. New York, 1942, the world at war. 5 walk-ins, not much of a practice, but better than the day before. My father completed medical training in 41. His in-laws paid for the furniture, the equipment. They hoped to pay the rent. Front rooms of the apartment for his office, the back their kitchen, bedroom, the lounge at night, the waiting room by day. My mother, the receptionist, they had no money for a nurse. That woman who came in this afternoon left empty-handed without her prescription. My mother shook her head. She won't be back expecting something, leaving with nothing. She's stressed, not ill. I'm no Barnum. You want me to prescribe a vitamin pill? You, no P.T. Barnum, sitting there, sporting those rimless glasses you don't need, only wear to look more professional. They sat looking at each other across the table, listening to voices in the street. Again, she shook her head. How are we going to pay the rent at $2 a visit, $3 a house call? He took off his glasses, placed them on the table, rubbed his forehead. Father's Day. Sudden growling of a truck broke the stillness of Sunday morning, sent a flotilla of pigeons skyward over rooftops, air filled with their cooing. These were neighborhoods smelling of grapes, trellised above front doors, where kids played stickball in the streets. We waited in the double-parked caddy, mother in the front seat, silently reading the paper, my brother and I playing old maid, while father walked up stone steps of duplex houses guarded by concrete lions, black bag in hand. 7 days a week he worked, disregarding the biblical injunction, but Sunday afternoons he was ours, leading us past dioramas of the African veldt, through museum halls of dinosaurs, or trips to the Bronx Zoo, tigers brooding their captivity, the Penguin House, and wild pony rides. Imperfect knowledge. My toes wriggled, skeletal within new shoes, big toe, little ones, as x-rays passed through me, no worry of Röntgens or rads. I stepped off the pedestal, laughed, and the shoe salesman smiled, said, "Look again if you like." And we both watched the goodness of the fit. My father, a general all-around doc, made use of x-rays too. How many chest films did he perform? Set fractures under fluoroscopy, not realizing danger of overexposure. No lead to shield his body. In the end, did it matter? Heart disease caught up with him, his 100-patient days, not cancer. After the first coronary, his face, a fractured moon, gray within the mist of a plastic oxygen tank. I thought he would break apart, never return to us. Before the second lethal blow, I saw him in the kitchen taking red pills from the fridge. Estrogen, he said. They tell me it's good for my heart. I'd grow breasts if I had to. Yes, I hoped then, but now no, it wasn't so. Yeah, there was this theory that women did not develop coronary artery disease until after menopause, and estrogen protected them. But it turned out estrogen promoted coronary artery disease in men. To his violin for William Bronson, MD. I found you abandoned in the attic of my boyhood home. Your broken bridge, rusting strings, a testimony to disregard. When had you last sung? And what year did he last hold you in his loving hands? Can you sing me a song of my lost father? Of the times you had together, the long dead maestro, you, his prima donna. When did he last place you in your case where you have waited in aging velvet until gently lifted from that grave resting place and I stroked your strings? If I were to raise your frayed bow, touch so lightly those strings, would you whisper why he lost interest, left you longing in your case? What was his new love that led to this estrangement? What ruled him that nothing else mattered, his music, his family? Sing me a song of my lost father, of the times you had together. Tell me his passion, whisper his secrets that I may understand. Now I'm moving over to my mom. So for those people who don't know, an incidentalloma is an unexpected incidental finding. My mother's incidentalloma. I scrawled a silly face on a latex glove blown up to distract you, smiled as we waited in a cramped exam room. You brought me here, your eyes accused, watching the heavy minutes tick by. Your doctor retired, a new one had ordered this test and that, an ultrasound to confirm his suspicion of gallstones, and there, in the right kidney, a spot. No way to know if it's cancer, best to remove it, he'd said. How to live with that on your mind? I suggested a second opinion. The urologist, tall, distant, white-coated, as I at other times, told us your choice is the risk. We sat there in silence, thinking what could not be said. I'll never escape. What should I do? You frowned at me. Say something. You're a doctor. I thought of my father, who prided himself in his medical judgment, told his patients what to do. He'd have advised you, but I was not him. Mom, a difficult choice. I can't decide. All I could do, all I could muster, seeking my own escape. Neither of us spoke on the drive to your place. I turned the radio on, turned the radio off, as a thought echoed through my mind. Could I advise surgery you might not survive? Week after week I phoned. You said, I've scheduled the pre-op tests, always postponed. You had made a decision to proceed with surgery at some distant date. Perfect. She snapped each bean to judge its freshness, pressed each peach, each tomato squeezed, while I looked up at the counters, walked the aisles of A&P behind her cart. We spelled the cantaloupes, shook the honeydews, thumped the watermelons, felt the firmness of cucumbers. She sniffed coffee beans before they were ground, knew the odor of fresh fish, color of spoiled meat. She has lived her life this way, judging for herself the quality of things, what others take for granted. You sense it in her elocution, her dress, her hair, her high-heeled shoes, the refusal to wear sneakers. Now she is no longer perfect, needs an aid to help her dress, her gait precarious, though her mind is clear. She still wears heels. It is her way, though death lurks with every fall. Homecoming. A year since her passing, so hard to return, everything untouched, unchanged. Photos of great-grandchildren on the Kanabe baby grand, the love seat with vines entwined, silk-covered ottoman in tatters, silent grandfather clock went out of time. Her closets crowded with clothes, bags of decades-old bank statements neatly arranged by year, and rubber-banded envelopes, a box of family snapshots, my father holding me as a toddler on his shoulder. In her bedroom, his chest of drawers never opened from the time she sold the house, moved to this apartment 30 years ago. The scent of his cologne still lingered on silk pajamas, socks, underwear, stale cigars, and clip-on paisley bow ties. Now I'm moving to the third of the four segments. This is called Traveling Poems as Remembrance of Places, Word Postcards. Loja. So Loja is a city in the southern Andes in Ecuador, where it's my daughter-in-law's hometown. Loja, with a high Sierra of woolen blankets and balmy days, city of 1,000 roosters crowing the dawn and sunrise bells, and 4 a.m. drunks rousting by my hotel window, and garbage trucks sing me their little song, "Give me your litter," as they make their early morning rounds. It is a clean city of many churches and their bells, calling in the morning, in the evening, calling the faithful to Mass that starts, completes the day. It is a blessed city, founded by Spaniards who brought with them Jesus, the cross, the crown of thorns in every church, the nailed limbs, the wounds that bleed. He who suffered for us, it is said, and the mother who birthed him, the miracle of the Virgin everywhere, the mother who intercedes. It is a wondrous city. Excuse me, I just need a sip of water here. Satori, Kyoto, Japan, the imperial city. I ascend Haizan, a stranger amongst pilgrims, carrying bento boxes on a summer day, high above the steaming 1,000-year-old city. Prayers on folded paper, white butterflies festoon trees that line the paths of Enryakuji. Toward the main hall, its columned portal. Chaperoned by temple guns, we cross the cobblestone yard, climb steps past rows of cast-off shoes, into a realm of incense and prayer. On my knees, forbidden to stand, I scuttle crabwise far beyond the altar, look down into darkness upon silent monks sitting at desks beneath me, as insects in their patterned motion, bald heads reflecting faint light from ornate lamps, copying ancient sutra of utmost importance, and beyond, my eyes adapting to darkness. 3 bodhisattvas beckon, huge, golden, smiling, floating in a void far larger than the limits of this temple. So a bodhisattva is a follower of the Buddha, someone who can achieve enlightenment, but turns back to help others along the way. 2 reminiscences of Florence. 1, lunch with a stranger. In town, speaker at a medical meeting, I wandered back streets, a neighborhood of Tortorias, past an open door. A group of men laughing at a table invited me in. Mangiare to the patron, who smilingly nodded, sent me to a rear dining room. Seated with an elderly man, my Italian only 3 crucial words, his English none. How were we to converse? A trilingual woman from Buenos Aires sat nearby. He ordered for us a bottle of Montalcino, lima beans rubbed in salt to begin, served with a chunk of aged Parmesan, then stracciapetti with bolognese sauce, strega to finish the meal. Striking his glass loudly with a spoon, he asked me to rise, announced to all present, Professore Bronzoni, who visits us from New York, is with us today. Amidst general applause, I nodded and made a small bow. 2, train to Firenze. You must come, Z said. How could you be in Italy, not be my guest, visit one of the oldest universities in Europe? But I'd heard there were threats of a railway strike. No worry, we do it the Italian way. A crew strikes a single train, a tweak to show its dissatisfaction. Unlikely you will be involved. So I came to Padua, spent the day, toured the anatomical theater where the dead were pleased to teach the living. On my return, halfway to Firenze, the train stopped. The lights dimmed, silence. A strike? Seated across the aisle, a well-dressed man my age, a big briefcase by his side. Excuse me, sir, do you speak English? Can you tell me what's happening? A strike? He looked at me, smiled. Yes, the crew has struck, left the train. But what do we do? We wait. They have gone for a smoke. We'll be back. I apologize for not offering you something to read. It is a good time then for a riposo. Now, this is the 4th final section. It's a medley of poems tracing my career rapidly at different times, my career in medicine. So I was an intern, surgical intern and junior resident at Bellevue Hospital, often a place of last resort. A Bellevue story. Marvin, you came to us out of the Bowery, limbs, skull, ribs, fractured, unconscious in shock, more dead than alive. Hit and run, they said, you were bumming a drink. We drilled burr holes in your fractured skull, drained your bloody subdurals. You awakened. Your rib cage shattered, we tubed and trached you. You breathed for us. Alive but not well, your saga began. You survived the sepsis of your Foley catheter and the DTs. Strapped down, you raged. We knew you were healing when old habits returned. How about a smoke, doc? I lit up a cigarette, puffed through your trach. It was your only pleasure. I lost track of you in rehab. It was your 6th month in Bellevue. Walking didn't come easy, your fractured legs, but you survived it all and left after a year. I saw you last in the knitting the following spring. Back in town from Camp LaGuardia, you were on the streets once more. They carried you in on a stretcher. I called the social workers, who were happy to see you again, in need of cleaning, but still surviving. We disinfected you, replaced your broken prosthesis and a little of your broken life. Pain, pain. I lifted your limp body out of the courtyard mud where you had lain in the floating litter. Rain poured down, soaked through my hospital whites. Alcohol was the addiction to which you had lost a wife, a job, a life. The incessant pain abated for a time, yet pancreatitis is a demon thing. It dwells chronically without remorse, a reminder of one's abuses. Morphine no longer provided comfort. Now you only wish for another illness. The slow decline into hepatic coma might do, or rather the rupture of varices. Death by bleeding would be swift. I didn't know the depth of your despair. Your resources had dwindled with each hospitalization. Last year, you were admitted to university, but now it was Bellevue. You'd run out of funds. More than that, you would join the Bowery bums you despised. I was told you were missing, last seen in the men's room. An abandoned IV bottle, its tube hanging freely, swung back and forth on a solitary pole. The fluid running nowhere spoke of your life. The silent men's room screamed your suicide. Looking down from the open window, I saw you there in the mud, 3 stories below. I shall be your Vasari. Giorgio Vasari was a Renaissance artist who wrote a series of biographies, lives of the most eminent sculptors and painters. I shall be your Vasari. I was in the Salmagundi Club the other day, Guillermo, for the Art League show. Stayed brownstone at somber rooms, recalled our short acquaintance. My career as doctor just beginning, yours as artist coming to an unexpected end. Your brother had volunteered for Vietnam. He was furious with you not fighting for your country. Malingerer, he called you, with your recurrent bouts of pain. But that was before we found the cancer. Now there was only time enough to wait. I thought of this through the year of your illness as we sat talking art and politics over dinner, and I watched you paint our protests, crowds in gray and black tones marching up the canvas to Bryant Park. Then once again in Bellevue, who jabbed you with needles, forced you to swallow long rubber tubes, I who had become more than your doctor. We both knew all help was transitory. You would enter that fierce land from which there was no return. I cannot be your Orpheus, but now, as your Vasari, I shall tell of your short life. Taking sides, first do no harm, Hippocrates. A junior resident at rotation, new to the place, first case of the day, I met the surgeon at the scrub sink. Now gowned and gloved, we faced each other, the anesthetized patient between us. Silence ticked by to the sound of the ventilator. Well, why don't you ask for the scalpel, he said. Thank you for the case, I blurted out, but the hernia is on your side. I admitted him last night. He spoke through mask, but I could see his eyes, which broached no error. What? I'm sure you're wrong. I read my office notes this morning. The chart's over there. He signaled the circulator. Bring it over, see left. Scalpel, I said, the knife snapped into my gloved hand. Then the thought, could he be wrong? I trust myself. Wait, I'm sure I'm right. You've got to be sure. Wake him up, surgeon to the anesthetist. Eyes. Now everyone looking at each other, wondering, judging. I watched the man awaken, still strapped down under sterile drapes, puzzled while he asked which side, then mutter, right. There was a question, now none, the surgeon said, turning to me, took spunk, but I knew I'd hesitated, almost stayed silent and made the wrong cut. Illumination. So this was in Edinburgh, Scotland. I was under the NIH training grant. This is before the MD PhD programs. And the uniqueness of the grant, so I could take it anywhere with me. I was funded. Bright as a slit lamp on my eye. Light flashed past the edge of a shade, stirred by a puff of wind, fell on the anesthetized mouse under my microscope. I saw my error, unseen before, a detail of murine anatomy missed in the penciled instructions from a Polish scientist, how to transfer eggs from one mouse to another. The shade resumed its place. Lab turned and returned to incandescent light. I sat back, laughed, wondered at the mystery of the passing whiff of air, random light cast upon a mouse, and murmured fervent thanks for this moment of illumination. Now I'm jumping about 20 years. For this poem, I'm viewing embryonic heartbeat after in vitro fertilization. Laboratory assisted reproduction. Add eggs from cloistered places, from gonads goaded into gravidopulence, and sperms suffused with ancestral potency. Then gametes join in dark synthetic climes, bear primal plans to present times. Formed from their infatuated union, transferred by my tinker's hands to your waiting womb. The embryo has its way and names you mother. I have often probed that fecund place, and in the dark vista of my sonic vision, sought motion, the motion of a nascent heart, bearing witness to life, beating ceaselessly within us, joining all creatures past, present, future from the first conjugal meeting. Got to take another sip of the water. Coming down the end here. A guest at communion. I was invited to a baptism by a patient. A guest at communion. The pastor wipes the chalice clean as one by one they come to drink. Some place the host within their mouth and sip. Others dip into the wine, partake as one, the body and the blood. Between hymns and homily, the pastor takes a handkerchief from under his robes, blows his nose. These same hands hold a cup of wine. With an eye for illness, I wonder what might pass from one to another. This congregation shares their faith and more. Perhaps the blood of Christ destroys all germs, but to be safe, if the choice were mine, I'd rather be a wafer dipper than a goblet sipper. First, do no harm, retrospective. In the heady days of his education, he devoured fruit from the tree of knowledge, binged on ideas, gorged on words of biochemists, bacteriologists, pathologists, then regurgitated them. Enthralled with science, the sense of infallibility, everything seemed possible. Progress, his mantra. Yet time passed, new paradigms replacing old. Drugs had prescribed their little good, procedures no benefit, if not harm. In that sea of fallacies and fashions, false compass bearings could be made. He sailed a fragile bark, fearing shipwreck on the Isle of Error. Caution now his watchword. The man with two heads. Which head would he wear today? And what if he wore the wrong one, starred the day as poet, in his role as healer, sporting the head of empathy when he needed to stand apart? There was no solace of the scalpel tears shed over spilled blood. Yet some days he awakened, wondering, did he not wear both upon his shoulders, sing a duet, mindful of some hidden balance? Thank you. Thanks. Thank you.
Thank you, Richard. Amazing, very powerful reading. Let me just come back quick. Thank you so much. So powerful. We have so many beautiful comments in the chat that I'm going to make sure that you get. But I also want to say congratulations, Richard. You really earned this. And thank you so much for everything that you do for the Birthplace, for LIPC, and for the community of poets here on Long Island at large. I see so many familiar faces here, and they're here to celebrate you today.
Well, thank you for putting this on, Caitlin. Much, much appreciated. And for Barbara, I have to thank Barbara Southern. She has been the prime mover in this for quite a while. So thank you, Barbara.
Barbara, yes, behind the scenes here, she's doing so much. And I want to let everyone know that you're going to be able to come on camera to congratulate Richard in just a few minutes. But first, I'd love it if everyone could unmute for a moment and give a big round of applause for Richard Bronson.
Yeah.
Bravo.
Wonderful, Richard.
Thank you so much. And we're going to go back to Linda Sussman to hear another song. And think about your congratulations. If you have any questions for Richard about his poetry, his inspiration, you can also ask those too. And everything in the chat will be made available to Richard afterwards. So all those congratulations will be going to him soon. All right, back to you, Linda.
Thank you. And that was just awesome, Richard. I am blown away by your poetry.
Thank you.
And the breadth of your topics and just how just your writing. So thank you and congratulations.
We just finished on the full of the moon. The light light was dancing on the walls through the night. The mixes were still filling my ears with sound. Oh, what a joyous night. Oh, what a joyous night. We played the same tune till it filled every pore, hearing so many sounds till we could almost hear no more, searching the right tone to sail away on. Oh, what a joyous night. Oh, what a joyous night. Come walk with me. Find a line and settle in. Pull up a chair to the melody. Let it play over. Let it play over. Let it play over and over again. New riffs and harmonies were brought in at last. High notes and rockin' licks skated straight across the tracks. A blanket of snow had fallen outside. Oh, what a joyous night. Oh, what a joyous night. Come walk with me. Find a line and settle in. Pull up a chair to the melody. Let it play over. Let it play over. Let it play over. Over again.
These are her words, her music.
Oh, yeah, she wrote this?
Yeah.
We just finished on the full of the moon. The light was dancing on the walls through the night. The mixes were still filling my ears with sound. Oh, what a joyous night. Oh, what a joyous night.
Beautiful, Linda, beautiful. Thank you so much. And we're going
Thank
to hear
you.
more from Linda at the end of our program tonight. So we're holding our applause. A lot of suspense. All right. So next up, I'm going to invite everyone to come on camera. And what you can do is if you start speaking, the video will go right to you. And you can offer your congratulations, and you can also ask questions. Richard has a lot of beautiful inspirations. We can hear more about that way too. All right. And just be sure to mute if you're not speaking. So if you're not trying to come on camera, that's okay, but just make sure you're muted so we can hear the people who are. All right. Go. Anyone wants to just start speaking, unmute themselves.
I'll start if no one's starting.
Yes, Barbara, it should be you first. It should be you.
Congratulations, Richard. This is a wonderful night. So Richard, do you think that the Zoom workshops will continue now that COVID is on the wane? What's your feelings about it?
I think Zoom workshops are here to stay. I think there'll be in-person workshops too.
Right.
But when you think of the power, well, first of all, there's the practicality. It's so easy to get together. There's no traveling. So if you're all over the island, that's very beneficial. Then the range, you know, one of our, as you know, one of our members moved out to Portland, Oregon, and she's still part of our workshop. I actually got an email from someone else, I won't mention the name, who moved to Austin, Texas, who just sent me a poem, wanted us to read the poem in the workshop. So I think they're here to stay. Now, of course, you lose something, the being in person, these feelings and things you have, you lose, but I think you gain. So I would think there'd probably be various hybrids, whether you might alternate weeks or you may have a, but I'm sure the Zoom is here to stay for many, it has been very valuable, even beyond just the idea of continuing what we plan to do, but I think it will continue.
And if I can interject, Barbara and Richard, if someone wanted to join LIPC, how would they contact you? What's the best way?
The best way is just to email, email either of us. You can give out, that's the best way.
Okay.
I do want to mention that Kate Dixon and Tony Policano worked very, very hard on the workshops. They were consistently, Kate was hosting all of them. Tony ran the Monday program. So they were part of that also.
Right. In fact, we're all part of the board, the LIPC board.
Yes. Yeah.
Right. And we have a wonderful YouTube of the LIPC poetry reading from a few months ago. So I posted that link. I'll be posting it again. Definitely want to check that out. It was a beautiful, beautiful night. Very powerful. So.
Right.
So I'll just say a very big congratulations, Richard.
Thank you, Kathy. Appreciate it from you especially.
Yeah, well, I love Astonished Harvest, and I just am amazed that you do all of this on top of still working at the hospital. That's really impressive. So thank you for your work.
Well, very fortunately, my muse works at night. I wake up with the lines there sometimes.
And appendectomies are on the right.
I thought some people would appreciate that. That was.
That's a little scary, actually.
All right, before the days of timeouts, right? You would appreciate that.
Oh my goodness.
But some of the listeners would appreciate that. Yeah.
Richard unmuted, and so I can chime in.
Oh,
with
David,
what's
hi,
posted.
Hi
there, Richard. I've been a great fan of Richard's for many years. Few know he saved me by performing an emergency appendectomy on me using only his poetry as an anesthetic. Later, he taught me to use my own poetry as an effective healing soporific. But my flippant or strange sense of humor aside, some people think you cross disciplines. No, what you do is demonstrate that medical doctors can actually heal. You are the right kind of humanist or humanitarian, or in fact, doctor. And the healing power of poetry is present all the time. You on the screen, and just to go ethnic, Ashena Punim. I'm so happy to see you smile. Congratulations, Richard.
Thank you so much, David. Appreciate your comments.
Richard, I want to wish you a congratulations and say I was privileged to first join your group through Zoom. And I appreciate what you and Barbara and Kate and Tony have done. And congratulations, well-earned honor.
Richard, I just wanted to tell you how extremely happy and proud I am in so many ways. I don't know if you can hear me. I certainly can't see myself, so I'm hoping that you can hear me. What a fabulous person you are, and a fabulous doctor, and an outrageously fabulous poet. We are so honored to have you as our Suffolk County Poet Laureate. And I am so happy to know you. And I'm so happy that everyone who was here was able to go through COVID and come out the other side, at least so far, and have this moment. So I just wanted to say thank you, and thank you, Lord, for that, for your gift.
Thank you, Gladys. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Richard, I just wanted to say thank you. I don't know that you recall me from the Huntington workshops, but you were so kind to welcome me in when I was just out of grad school, and I had no idea that I could have any kind of a quality of workshop that I got by going to you. And I just wanted to say thanks, and God bless you. And your word choices are so wonderful and inspirational, and I appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Much appreciated.
You're welcome.
Richard, as a trustee with you on the board, you're so unassuming. I mean, I've known you for a number of years. I haven't known you through your poetry. So I think tonight was maybe really the first time that I kind of paid attention. I know I saw you with Jack and Maria when you did your readings a few years ago, but I never really zoned in on you. And I just have a whole new appreciation of you and for you. So I want you to know that. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Susan. I appreciate that comment.
Richard, first of all, congratulations. And I thank you for welcoming me into the poetry group at the medical center. For years, I lived in the wilderness as a closeted poet who wrote only for himself. And you and Jack and Maria have been so inviting and so, working with me and having patience in terms of when I write, and gentle critiques. And so congratulations again. Well, I just want you to know I appreciate it.
I appreciate that. I'm so glad that you joined us too. I think, what's so nice is the different voices and the different coming together in a workshop. I think that's a workshop is seeded that way by different backgrounds and different styles. So thank you, Al. I always enjoy seeing you when you're there.
Richard, I just want to say congratulations. I think your selection of poems was great tonight. It took us down different paths of your journey. The only thing that I found surprising is how much you do that I didn't know you did. But also know that there's that you have a load of support behind you as you move forward in this position. Congratulations.
I appreciate that, and I think that I think having prior knowledge is important, and you certainly had the experience of being a poet laureate for the county, so I value that.
Hi, Richard. So I want to say congratulations. I also want to say thank you, Barbara Southard, for a wonderful term as well. Suffolk County is very lucky. I may live in Nassau, but you're still part of Long Island. So Long Island is and so congratulations, kudos. And on behalf of Cliff, I want to thank you for those wonderful accolades. And I will share them with him. He will be very, very grateful.
Thank you, JR, for all you do in terms of promoting poetry. And we've been around a long time. I think it's
my age is showing.
We're very lucky, and there's such a special community of poets on Long Island. I think people appreciate it. It's really a wonderful, wonderful group. Thanks.
Well deserved. Congratulations, and enjoy it. Have fun.
Yeah, I intend to. Yes.
Thank
you. All right. Anyone else want to jump in? I don't want to interrupt anyone. All right. So wonderful. Congratulations. What a wonderful evening. We got to hear Richard Bronson reading with us. We're going to hear from Linda Sussman one more time in just a moment. But first, I think we should all give one more round of applause for our new Suffolk County Poet Laureate, Richard Bronson.
Hey, Richard.
Hey, hey. Woo, 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 woo. Yo, Richard.
Thank you so much, Richard. Always a pleasure to hear you reading too, really.
Can do. Will you hold my hand? Yeah.
All right. So we're going to go back to you, Linda. Hold on, Linda. I've lost you on here. So just give me one moment to find you again. It's awkward behind the scenes of Zoom here. All right. I have found you, Linda. Wonderful.
Thank you, Caitlin. I didn't know I was lost. So I'm going to do 2 songs back to back here. The first one's a little bit melancholy, and then I'll pick it up with the last tune. So this one is brand new, not recorded anywhere, called Will You Hold My Hand?
Will you hold my hand when the running gets tough and the rain is heavy and the road is rough? Will you bring me daisies from where we used to live? Will you hold my hand when I haven't much more to give? Will you sing me songs and sweet lullabies when the fear comes calling in the depths of night? Will you be my guide, my brightest star, there to remind me of who we are? The arc of life bends like a brook over polished stones and jagged lines. Seasons change at the edge of the banks. Each graceful turn as time unwinds. Will you tell me stories of how we met, from our first sunrise to no regrets? Will you hold a flame large enough for 2, a million memories to walk with you?
Thank you. And thank you. I'm going to change it up a little bit here and switch my guitars. So bear with me one sec. feel free to congratulate Richard again. He really deserves it.
Congratulations, Richard, again.
Linda has this wonderful setup there. She's ready for Zoom all the time.
All right. Haven't done this one in a while, but here we go. This is something, why can't I hear myself? Here we go. This is something that I wrote many years ago, and I send it out to everyone here, all the poets and any musicians who are tuned in, and just anyone being creative in their lives, called Creators.
We are all creators.
Hang on.
We are all creators. Everyone. We are all creators of our lives. We are all creators. Everyone. And we create. We know how to survive. We will rise above everyone. We will rise above in our lives. We will rise above. Oh, everyone will walk in grace. We know how to survive. When the walls come down, there is love, shining light on every corner. When we raise our heads and lift our hearts, we'll walk in peace with one another. There's a world we will heal, everyone. There's a world we will heal in our lives. There's a world we will heal. Oh, everyone, embrace our dreams. We know how to survive. When the walls come down, there is love, shining light in every corner. When we raise our heads and lift our hearts, we'll walk in peace with one another. We are all creators, everyone. We are all creators of our lives. We are all creators, everyone, and we create. We know how to survive, and we create. We know how to survive.
Well, Linda, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me, Caitlin. And congratulations again, Richard. That was just awesome.
Thank you.
It was. And Linda's website is in our chat if you want to check that out. She has a lot of wonderful gigs, especially on Zoom now. She's the occasion right away there. So if everyone wants to unmute for another minute and give a big, well-deserved round of applause for Linda Sussman.
It's wonderful, Linda.
Thank you. And I do want to say, Barbara, thank you for inviting me.
Welcome.
Yes, Barbara did so much behind the scenes. So thank you, Barbara, again.
You're welcome.
You get your shout out earned. All right. So everyone, thank you so much for joining us. It was a very dark and stormy night here on Long Island, but the weather held out for us. So we all had our power. We didn't know a few hours ago how that would go.
Right, yeah.
So I'm so glad we're able to all join together, and I hope to see you soon. We have lots of events on Zoom for poets, as you know, so hope you can join us again and have a wonderful
And
weekend.
thanks again for everyone for coming. I much appreciate it. Thanks again, Barbara, for everything you did to put this together. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Richard. Wonderful. Wonderful. All right. Have a great weekend, everyone. Enjoy.
Thank you, Caitlin.
Thank you. We'll see you soon.